Hello, good morning. You welcome to HitzAFrik Radio here in Ghana, and this is HitzAFrik Business News with me, Jenny Kumsi. Now let's go straight with our news headlines. Grid codes infrastructure currently under severe pressure, ACEP says. Now moving on to a different story, joint media released in Ghana card. Now to our African news. There's been a mixed spirit in the African alcohol sector as restrictions continues. And also Turkish company bids to supply with reliable energy. On our international front, Biden aims for universal high-speed internet and infrastructure plan. Now, on the same story, updates the CEOs of three companies in the electric vehicle and semiconductor industries reacted Thursday to President Joe Biden's massive infrastructure spending proposal. That's more to come. Now, straight to our stories. Executive Director of the African, Mr. Ben Boachi, has observed that infrastructure of the Ghana Grid Company, Gridco, are currently under enormous pressure. This, he said, has arisen because of the increase in demand as against the failure to produce bigger equipment to meet the growing population. Mr. Boachi told Zifa Pompey on the first take on 3FM Thursday, April 1st, that every year Energy Commission plans and they tell you that the rate of growth of demand in this country, so whether it is Adenta, Medina, cantonment, airports, every locality is growing in demand. So the transformer you will have will not take you 2 or 3 years to be able to supply power to the same locality because people are buying new equipment. New businesses are opening up in those areas and power demand is growing, so you need to bring a bigger capacity equipment to be able to address the challenge with the Now, the executive director of the African Center for Energy Policy, Mr. Ben Boachi, has observed that the infrastructure of the Ghana Grid Company, Gridco, are currently under enormous pressure. This, he said, has risen because of the increase in demand as against the failure to produce bigger equipment to meet the growing population. Mr. Boachi told Ziva on the first take 3FM Thursday, April 1st, every year Energy Commission plans and they tell you the rate of growth of demand in this country. So whether it is Adenta, Medina, cantonment, airport, every locality is growing in demand. Now, so the transformer you will have to take 2 or 3 years to be able to supply power to the same locality because people are buying new equipment. New businesses are opening up in those areas and power demand is growing. So you need to bring a bigger capacity equipment to be able to address the challenge with demand growth. He again said we have failed to do that over time. So now there is too much pressure on Greco's infrastructure, which is causing the trips. How to deal with that is when you think the load is going beyond the demand, then you easily to cut some people off. That is why it is most important that once you can monitor in your system to know that within a dental community, the demand is moving to a certain threshold. That makes it impossible for you to wheel power to them. You had to tell the EC to cut some people off so that you can maintain the balance of the grid. Meanwhile, Gridco has said it has no intentions of embarking on a nationwide load shedding program. According to the company, what is being experienced in some parts of Accra are part of a couple of projects to enhance power supply reliability in the Greater Accra region. It explained in a statement on Wednesday, March 31st, that the ongoing projects appear to have heightened perceptions of the impending nationwide power cut. Gridco wishes to assure the general public that it has no intention of embarking on a nationwide load shedding program, it stressed in the statement. It listed the project as the Millennium Development Authority Mida funded Kukwasi Station and Kaswa Bulk Supply Points installations, and the French Development Agency FAFD funded Tema Accra Transmission Line reinforcement projects. Now the projects are set to be completed in the months of June and July. Gridco noted that at same points during the process, the contractors would need to interconnect the current transmission system. For this to happen, there will be intermittent power outages at different periods to safely connect the new installations. Currently, these outages are not nationwide and will affect only part of Accra and Winneba. Gridco said it is working with the Electricity Company of Ghana (ECG) and MEDA and other stakeholders to ensure minimum impact on customers in the areas to be affected. Gridco is assuring all Ghanaians that there is a concerted effort by all stakeholders, led by the Energy Ministry, to ensure consistent, accessible, and reliable power supply at all times. The Ghana Revenue Authority (GRA) and the Registrar General Department (RGD), in collaboration with the Ghana Revenue Authority and the department in collaboration with the National Identification Authority (NIA) have commenced the use of the Ghana Card Identification Number as taxpayers' identification number. Now, the GRA informed the public in a statement that effective April 1, 2021, the Ghana Card Personal Identification Number, Ghana Card PIN, will replace the Taxpayer Identification Number (TIN) of individual issued by the GRA for tax identification purposes. This change is in line with the government policy on the use of a unique identifier for all transactions where identification of an individual is required. Now, people has apologized for deceitful comments. To ensure a seamless rollout of these initiatives, the following measures have been instituted. Registration officials of the National Identification Authority (NIA) are currently stationed at 14 GRA offices across the country to register individuals who do not possess a Ghana card. Registration officials of the National Identification Authority will eventually be stationed at 63 other GRA locations to serve all taxpayers. There will be a transition period from April 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2021, where both the TIN and Ghana card PIN may be used simultaneously as the unique number for tax identification purposes. After this period, it is expected that all existing TINs will be replaced with a Ghana card PIN. It added, a self-service portal has been made available on the GRA website www.gra.gov.gh for existing taxpayers which have registered and have been issued with Ghana card to link their Ghana card PIN to their TIN. Any taxpayer with a Ghana card must present it at any GRA office to be registered as a taxpayer. It must be noted that for transactions such as the filing of returns, payment of taxes, clearing of goods, and registering of businesses, the Ghana card PIN should be quoted on the documentation, application forms, returns, and schedules supporting the transactions. He also said we continue to rely on the continued cooperation of all taxpayers, individual, organization in this exercise. The Registrar General Department says it is working in collaboration with the National Identification Authority (NIA) towards merging the unique ID number of the Ghana card to be replaced with a tax identification number (TIN). Implementation is expected to commence on April 1st, 2021, and the change or transition is envisaged to enhance smooth registration of efficient and effective administration of entities, businesses, industrial property marriage. They have explained the exercise would phase off registration of companies and businesses with a number, and it would also enable the organization to share important data as well help identify and rope in eligible businesses in the formal and informal sector. The Registrar General, Mrs. Jemima Owari, speaking in an interview, said the Ghana US Ghana partner to strengthen fisheries sector. Okay, now moving on to a different story. The U.S. Deputy Chief Mission Christopher J. Lamora joined officials of the government of Ghana, academia, civil society, and the private sector in a virtual learning event marking the conclusion of the Sustainable Fisheries Management Project and 7-year $24 million program funded through the U.S. Agency for International Development. The Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Aquaculture Development, Hal Kumsin, and the Ghana Fisheries Commission Executive Director, Michael Atadazi, were among those in attendance. In his remarks, Deputy Chief of Mission Lamora commended the SFMP's work to strengthen fisheries sector management, noting that we should all celebrate our collective achievements while recognizing that more work is needed to rescue Ghana's small pelagic fisheries, which are in a dire state. He also reiterated the willingness of the United States government to work with stakeholders to build fish stocks that have been increasingly at risk due to illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, and to help ensure a locally sourced nutrition and sustainable supply of protein. Now to our African front. There's been a mixed spirit in the African alcohol sector as restriction continues. Now, COVID-19 has impacted on sales, but may big industry players remain confident of prospects in what should remain the world's fastest growing market? Alcohol is increasingly big business in Africa, but when COVID-19 struck, governments across the continent closed down bars, breweries to halt the spread of the disease in social environment and free up hospital rooms usually occupied by problem drinkers. COVID impact and government clampdowns led brewers to halt investments, deprived barley farmers of vibrant markets, and stimulate the growth of international giants and local craft brewers alike. In South Africa, three controversial spells of prohibition, which have also seen retail sales banned, have accumulated the continent's biggest drinking market. Industry estimates suggest that the country has lost 14.2 million, nearly $1 million in sales revenue and more than $7.8 million taxes and excess duties in the period. The industry is weathering its fiercest storm in decades, with over 30% of local brewers in South Africa estimated to have permanently shut their doors. Haykins, one of the four brewers accounting for 90% of the market in Africa, along with AB, IBEV, Dago, and Castle Group, has announced job cuts and a hold on new African development. Now, Diego spends 290 million on greener African businesses. Now, confidence in the future, but despite these circumstances, analysts say that beyond COVID-19, Africa will remain the world's fastest growing alcohol market for brewers who survived the pandemic, a market worth $13 million for beer alone, driven by deepening urbanization and demographic growth, continues to offer immense prospects. International giant Diego, which owns a brand portfolio including Guinness, Johnny Walker, Smirnoff, and others, made beer circus Senator Origins spent 2 weeks methodically shutting down all 13 of its breweries in Africa last spring. Some 12% of its net sales were generated on the continent in 2019, but growth stalled in 2020, and major subsidiary East Africa Breweries saw beer profits slashed during the 6 months to December 2021. But despite a tough year, the company is looking to an African industry beyond COVID with confidence. The firm has introduced protocols to allow its breweries to reopen safely. On-site hotels have been set up with private transport for workers, and staff have been trained via an e-learning hub. Kenyan facilities were adapted to produce 600,000 liters of hand sanitizers, with thousands more manufactured in Cameroon and Tanzania. The on-trade market, including beers, restaurants, clubs, and hotels, usually account for 80% of revenue, according to Okefe, and Diego has generated a $5 million port to help bars reopen in East Africa. Now, the Turkish company bids to supply Africa with reliable energy. The car power ship in supplying energy to African governments from its power ships and has planned to roll out LG to power projects across the continent. Now, MD Zainab Harizi explains the company's plan. While Turkey's diplomatic efforts in Africa continues to expand Ankara's political influence, ambiguous Turkish companies in a range of sectors are targeting new markets on the continent. Car Power Ship, a Turkish operator of floating power ships, is in talks with several African countries to help overcome electricity shortages by supplying pay-as-you-go energy solutions. The Istanbul-based company is currently providing plug-and-play power to 9 African markets while running a fleet of 25 mobile power plants worldwide. Managing Director Zineb Harizi tells African Business that Africa is the most important continent for the business, with the ongoing conversations for power deals in a host of countries ranging from Morocco, Cameroon to Mauritius. Now, Africa as a continent is very important for us moving forward because many of the countries have access to ocean. Electricity prices are higher, and there is a growing population, she says. Now, K Powership MD and colleagues approach one of the company's power ships. The firm, a subsidiary of Turkey Energy Group, has been building power ships since 2010, and it has a total installed capacity exceeding 4,100 MU, with 1,400 MU in Africa. The floating plant generates power from heavy fuel oil and liquefied natural gas and feed power directly into national grids. The company supplies 100% of Guinea-Bissau electricity needs, and 10% Mozambique's other markets include Guinea, Ghana, Gambia, Sierra Leone, Sudan, Senegal, and Zambia. With grid capacity often exceeded by rapidly increasing demand in Africa, K-Powership offers reliable energy without African governments having to invest millions of dollars in huge energy projects, she says. Now, the independent power producer IPP can provide electricity within 30 days and say it will reduce the average cost of power for most countries. The LNG vessels produce power at 0.12 per kilowatt, which is significantly lower than the average electricity cost in many parts of Africa. For example, the price of electricity in Kenya in June 2020 was $0.202 per household and 0.161 for businesses. The low cost means that many national utilities are able to buy electricity from K Powership and then sell it on for a profit. She says the firm is also launching the first LNG to power project in Africa through specialized floating storage regasification units that were built in Singapore. Now, elsewhere, development assistance and the financing of mosques is carried out by the Turkish Cooperation and Coordination Agency. The development agency has 21 offices in Africa in countries ranging from South Africa to South Sudan. A common perception of Turkish companies in Africa is that they offer European quality but Chinese prices, says Harizi. In addition to power, Turkish companies have a strong reputation in the construction sector, having built airports, business complexes, hotels, convention centers, sports stadiums, shopping malls, and hospitals across the continent. Harizi says that K Powership is independent of the Turkish government. We try to stay completely above all politics. Our biggest value driver is cost advantage and the power we bring to the local people by bringing them low cost and reliable electricity, vocational training, know how transfer and employment opportunities. K Powership had been heading for an IPO in London, but the listing has been delayed by COVID-19. Harizi says that staying private has given the firm more flexibility during the growth stage. Says that the IPO is not completely off table. Now let's do a story in Egypt. A stranded ship finally freed after nearly a week of blockade. Pristine as ever given, the blockade on the Suez Canal in Egypt kept companies on their toes. With daily costs piling up, some had to reroute ships, meaning several more days of the travel time, fuel, and other costs for over 360 vessels aboard the ship. An estimated $9.6 million worth of goods are held up. Egypt alone lost between 12 to $15 million a day, about 12% of global trade transit through the Suez Canal. It has been an unaccepted collateral impact of the Suez Canal blockade, with the Ever Given container ship coming to a stop. Close to 400 carrier vessels, including supertankers, had to halt their journey, resulting in oil prices going on a roller coaster ride. On Thursday, March 25th, the price of the black gold lost about 4% before starting again and closing higher the next day. As the Ever Given was freed on Monday, world oil prices eased. For analysts, the fluctuation of the figures is far from worrying. Despite delaying in delivering crude oil, stocks are still large enough to absorb the impact, according to Toro Bosini, head of the oil market division at the International Energy Agency. Now, the price of sea transport for petroleum products had already nearly doubled. She said, as I said, we are not losing oil supply, but oil ships will be tied up longer if they have to go round. It takes about 2 weeks longer to go around Cape Point, so oil tankers will be tied up longer to get the oil from point A to point B, which increases freight rates, he said. Now, according to data from Rativate, a global provider of the financial markets data and infrastructure, Egypt, which considers the canal a crucial source of revenue, lost over $95 million in tolls. In a matter of days, prices of natural gas shot up, and there are concerns that food supply chains will also be affected because of the blockade. Dr. Kofi Maya, a trade and transport law consultant, told Ignatius that a lot of these are also on the basis of joint-in-time deliveries that must have that must come for goods to be manufactured in Europe and sent to various parts in Africa. In 2020, Africa recorded its worst economic recession in half of a century due to the health crisis, but there's some relief ahead in 2021 as the African Development Bank forecasts a positive economic outlook for all African economies. Now let's head straight for our international business news. Biden aim for universal high-speed internet in infrastructure plan. Expanded broadband access has brought bipartisan support, but Republicans says Democrats are taking the wrong approach. Democrats and Republicans are both interested in spending money on the nation's infrastructure, but the two sides don't see eye to eye on what the plan should be and how to pay it for it. The White House $2.3 trillion infrastructure proposal released Wednesday includes the goal of connecting every U.S. home and business while also cutting prices for internet access, dubbing broadband the new electricity in its social importance. Reliable internet service has become more critical over the past year, as many Americans were forced to work, attend school, and entertain themselves at home because of the pandemic. Well, make sure every single American has access to high quality, affordable, high speed internet, said Mr. Biden in a speech Wednesday. We're going to drive down the price for families who have service now and make it easier for families who don't have affordable service to be able to get it now, he said. Now expanding the broadband coverage has support in both parties on Capitol Hill, but Republicans says that wrapping it into an infrastructure proposal full of other Democratic priorities is a wrong approach. Some Republicans have also expressed concern about the size of the proposed broadband spending and the broader package, which will be paid for an increase in corporate taxes. Now, on same story, the CEOs of the three companies in the electric vehicle semiconductor industries reacted Thursday to President Joe Biden's massive infrastructure spending proposal. The Biden administration announced Wednesday it wants to spend millions on these industries, including $50 million to address supply constraints in semiconductors and $174 million to bolster the adoption of electrified vehicles. But this is what the CEO said. Taking Micron technology, for instance, semiconductors form backbone of everything in our economy. And so now that's all for the news here on HitzAFrik Business News. Now a recap of our news headlines. In Ghana, grid infrastructure currently under severe pressure, ACP said. And another story, Joint Media released in Ghana card. On Africa, there's been a mixed spirit in the African alcohol sector as restriction continues. Now on Turkish company buys to supply with reliable energy. On an international front, Biden aims for universal speed internet and infrastructure plan. And on that same story, updates the CEOs of the three companies in the electric vehicle and semiconductors industries reacted Thursday to President Joe Biden's massive infrastructure spending proposal. And this is what time will permit us to stop our news. I am Jenny Kumsin. Enjoy the rest of our programs here on HitzAFrik Radio.